Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. With me as always is Morgan.
Hey, what's up?
Will BTS be the first to postpone their mandatory military enlistment once the military law revision is implemented? There's an article that came out that is talking about this issue. It says, to be considered for the postponement, the individuals must first receive a recommendation from the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism. The current minister, Hwang Hee, said on a TV broadcast recently that although BTS has yet to submit an application, he will definitely recommend BTS if they were to submit an application for the postponement. And as we know, this new law has to do with postponing it until you're 30 so that they can do their enlistment later, but only for certain artists who have achieved the cultural achievements that are stated in the law. So I think it's very interesting that this minister is talking publicly about this. Like, BTS hasn't even done anything yet, and he's like, yeah, we will definitely give them a postponement if they want one. And he's basically saying they haven't even applied for it yet.
Well, they don't need to apply for it. I mean, this law is only for them. Does anyone else even qualify for it? No, right?
Right. As far as the question of will they be the first ones to utilize this?
It's only for them.
They're the only ones who could.
So it's obviously for them. They don't need to apply yet. They will when it's necessary.
Yeah, I think right now...
Of course he's going to approve it. It's written for them.
I guess he wanted to put it out there in case, like, he thought, oh, maybe they won't approve it if we try to apply for it. Like, I don't know why anyone would think that.
No, nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks that. Like, the people behind the scenes all know this is for them.
Why do you think this minister said something? Was he just like talking like, yeah, I would?
Nice to get in the news. Nice to get your name in the news.
Yeah, that's true. He could be,
wanting
to be seen in a positive way.
Hey, look at me. I said something that most people agree with.
Right.
Most people enjoy doing that. Something
that's like pro BTS. Like, let me get on that side.
Yeah. I don't think he's an elected official, but he's, in that same vein.
Right. Like, ministry is like a cabinet member.
Well, those people... They enjoy saying things that are universally popular or generally popular. So, yeah, that's why he wants to say it.
That's true. He wants to look good in the eyes of Koreans.
Yeah, this is a kind of a bipartisan issue for them, right? BTS should get exemption.
Right. This article also mentioned how it was bipartisan that this law was passed. So if they apply for postponement, they'll definitely get it. But they haven't applied yet, so I thought that part was interesting. Although I'm sure we would have heard if they did apply to it, because it would like immediately get out. You know
what I'm betting? They're working on something even better. They're probably working on something even better, so you don't want to apply until you absolutely have to.
Yeah, I do think...
Because if you apply to this thing, then then if you're seeking something even better, people will say, well, what are you doing? Don't you have this other exemption? Let's just deal with that first.
Look at all the other options first.
Right.
And I think they don't need to apply for the postponement just yet. They still have like the rest of this year, even though it's almost...
Yeah, there's no reason to do it now. It won't go away.
Well, Jin has to do something by the end of this year. So either by the end of this year, he needs to apply for this postponement or he has to enlist.
They will do it at the end of this year if nothing else comes around.
Now, let's say they said, oh, we're going to enlist now, or one or more of them says they're going to enlist. Do you think the government can reject that? Are they able to like say, no, we don't want any members of BTS for various reasons?
They can say it. They can do anything they want.
I guess the government can.
I don't think they will say it. Also, why would one member say they want to enlist?
Because it's time.
Because they're 30? Nobody's 30 yet, right?
Well, for that, they got to apply to get that.
They're going to apply. Worst comes to worst, they will apply for that. But I think that they're trying to work on something even better. Mm-hmm. You have to understand that the end goal for them is to not serve at all. You have to imagine that behind the scenes they're thinking, can we get just a full exemption? And they're working towards that. There's nobody at HYBE who's thinking, well, this is good enough. They're constantly trying to do even better and just get a full exemption. I'm sure of it. And I think that they'll eventually be able to get to that point because, like you said, this is sort of there's bipartisan agreement. It's not like anybody's really against it. Well, I mean, that's not fair to say. Some people might be really against it, but it seems like the majority of people think that BTS should get full exemption. I would hazard to guess that that's the case. But making that into law is a trickier thing. It's not just, oh, well, people are for this.
Right. So you think right now they're working on a way to get a full exemption?
Absolutely, they're still working on a way to go. Their lawyers wouldn't be making their salary if they're not working on that right now. They're lobbyists. They're 100% working on that.
I have a different scenario that I was thinking of that I think might be what's happening. I think they want to tour again. They definitely want to do another world tour. So they're waiting to see when they can do that. And let's say they can start it in the fall, right? I think that's a safe thing to say because, you know, it takes time to plan these things and like, book different stadiums and whatnot. I think they want to announce the world tour and then figure out what all of those dates are. And if it starts in the fall, then probably it will bleed over into 2022. At that point, when it's near Jin's birthday, I think they will announce that Jin and Suga need to apply for the postponement, right? So Jin's birthday is December 4th. So before that, they're going to say Jin and Suga need the postponement. But they're going to say they're only doing that so they can finish the tour with all 7 members, right? And they know they'll get that postponement because, you know, this lawmaker and others probably have told them, yeah, you're definitely going to get it. So, but then they'll say, we need it just to finish out this tour. And then at the end of the tour, I think they are going to announce all 7 are going to enlist. That's what I think is going to happen because I think even though they've established in the law that they could get this postponement, I don't think they'll use it because they're thinking about their image and they're like, well, we need to enlist. Otherwise, you know, BTS, people might think bad things about BTS if they don't enlist. Unless they pass some different law in the meantime that says, you know, BTS cannot enlist. I think they're going to still try to do it. But they want to tour first so that they can, you know, complete what they wanted to do during 2020.
Well, they'll delay it as long as they can.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the scenario.
And people are working on something even better. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. I'm sure that they're working on something right now. Recently, there was a Variety profile published on Scooter Braun, and it's very long, and I don't really recommend that anybody read the whole thing unless you're a huge Scooter Braun fan, but he does mention the HYBE deal and Bang PD, so I took a look at it just to see what he would say about that. Most people just know him as the guy who manages Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber, and you know, he had a controversy with Taylor Swift, and what BTS fans know is that his company was bought by HYBE. There's a lot of press about him lately. I think that he did this article for a reason. He talks about the HYBE deal, and he says that he wasn't looking to sell, but when he took a walk with a Disney executive, that started a rumor. And I guess Bang PD heard about that and he was like, oh, are you selling your company? Because then I'm interested. So I guess he's trying to say that he wasn't like shopping it around. Like he's trying to say, oh, this sort of accidentally happened.
Right. Well, I believe that to be true. But at the same time, that statement is almost irrelevant. For someone to say that they weren't shopping around their company, yes, you weren't shopping around your company. But people don't shop around their companies. It reeks of desperation. Right? Only if you want to leave the country or something bad has happened, do you shop around your company. Whenever your company is bought out, it's because a bigger player has come and said, hey, we see a lot of value in your company. Here's an offer you can't refuse. Here's a ton of money. You want to do business with us? Oh, yeah, this sounds good. That's how deals generally start. It's not, hey, you're knocking on doors. Hey, you want to buy this company? That's not really how companies are sold.
Yeah, people don't just ask to buy companies out of nowhere.
Right. It's not like selling your house, okay? The best analogy I can make is imagine if you're a really attractive woman. Do you shop yourself around? Like, hey, I'm going to put myself on dating sites and will somebody please date me? No. You just go about doing your life. You exist. You know, you have brunch with friends on Sunday. You go to the gym. And you know what happens? Really high value men will come and hit you up. Right. They'll say, hey, are you free? Are you dating anyone? Do you want to come? We have a party on my yacht on Friday. Are you interested? I have 2 tickets to this release party and, you know, Drake is going to be there. You want to come with me? That's the life. I'm speaking theoretically. I'm not an attractive woman, so I don't know from personal experience, but I have it on good authority that this is sort of how it works, right? The offers come in because you're in demand.
People see the value.
Yeah. And that's what Scooter Braun is saying, right? Now, could it be a little bit of a fib on his part? Might he have put out a couple feelers here and there in the grapevine and said, hey, you know what? I would be willing to sell this company, see what people say. That might have been true. But in general, if you have an in-demand product, which I would argue the Scooter Braun does. I mean, Ithaca, they have Ariana Grande, they have Justin Bieber. It's not like it's a crap company, right?
Mm-hmm. They have a lot of assets that are good.
He doesn't have to shop his product around. So I do believe him in that sense, but it's not telling the whole story because the companies that are in demand, that are valuable, they don't have to shop themselves around. They know that they'll get approached. So it doesn't mean that he wasn't absolutely willing to sell. It doesn't mean they weren't like for sale. It just means that this is not how it works. You don't shop yourself around. And hey, what happened? People with money came towards him.
Do you think he set up this, I was seen with this Disney executive, and so people thought Disney might buy Ithaca? Well, like, was that a setup?
Could be. I don't know. I'm not Scooter Braun's friend or anything.
Or did you just hang out with that guy and then people...
Scooter Braun has like much more important friends. Hey, was Scooter Braun seen on a yacht with Jeff Bezos, or am I like remembering incorrectly? I think he was, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he was.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't hear that one.
Jeff Bezos was on like David Geffen's yacht, right? And Scooter Braun was there. I just remember, I think I remember something like this happening because then it was at that moment that I realized that, wow, this guy is big time. Taylor Swift really shouldn't be messing with him. She did anyway.
Right.
But
David Geffen is huge in music, so if he was like...
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's huge. Yeah. And he owns like $200 million yachts and stuff.
So if Scooter Braun was like socializing with him, then that is pretty big.
I believe Scooter Braun was socializing with David Geffen and Jeff Bezos. You don't know who those people are? Then you should. They're very rich, powerful people.
And we know that Ithaca Holdings might have been in a bad place because the artist couldn't tour that year because of the pandemic. So we know like he didn't make as much money as he could have that year because they had all sorts of plans. So of course he was open to a sale.
Yeah, his liquidity might have been in a bad spot. And not only maybe was his liquidity in a bad spot, he pays attention. I'm sure he pays attention to the goings on of the industry. He might have seen that despite the pandemic, BTS is still making money. And he might have admired that and said, wow, they know a little bit more about this industry than I do. They have something to offer. So if he is looking for a good person to sell it to, now keep in mind, he's not selling it and then just like piecing out and retiring to like Bahamas or something. He's still in the company.
Yeah, he still has to do everything he does.
Yeah, so his preference probably would be to sell it to somebody who has something to add, right? And at that point, HYBE has demonstrated a unique ability to be profitable during the pandemic. Maybe that impressed Scooter Braun. And he said, wow, if I were to have a boss or if I were to be acquired by somebody, I want to be acquired by somebody who adds some value.
And we know HYBE was in the market for buying up smaller labels. So if Scooter Braun set up this whole situation, then that was pretty smart because the right company bought him. Like if you want to succeed in the long run, that's good if HYBE buys you.
Yeah, I don't know if he set it up or whatever, but
I don't know if he's that much of a mastermind, but this turned out to be a very good
A lot of it seems
situation.
very PR-ish, like this interview. You have to take it with a grain of salt. So the things he says, just
the fact this interview happened with Variety and it's like very long. And there's even like multiple articles from the same set of interviews. I almost feel like he knows how Bang PD operates, and we know that BTS and HYBE and Bang PD, like everybody who follows them has a very good idea of their image. Like they think, oh, Bang PD is a good guy. He's really working hard for BTS, and everybody gets along, and there's nothing crazy happening, nothing shady happening. And I almost think Bang PD suggested that Scooter Braun do some interviews like this to kind of help his reputation, because a lot of people just know him as a bad person. Like they know about the Taylor Swift situation.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I like Taylor Swift and I'm a fan of her, we don't know actually what happened there with the whole him getting her masters and whatever, and she didn't have a chance to buy it. Like we have no idea what actually happened, but she was able to succeed in making Scooter Braun look really bad in public relations.
Right, because she has a much larger platform. One entity owned your masters, another entity made an offer for it, It was the best offer, and it was sold. That's business. That's life. Anyway, Scooter Braun, yeah, he took an L on that because she has a much larger platform. So maybe he was told to do some interviews. And the only one thing that I didn't like about his interview was he said he tried to sort of characterize what was a buyout. It's a buyout. HYBE bought Ithaca.
Right,
Okay, just
right.
that's plain and simple. That's what happened. He tried to characterize it as like not a buyout, like a merger. Like it's not a merger. They bought you.
Yeah.
They bought you, and then you have a seat on the board. But that's totally a courtesy, and that can be taken away too. You don't own the company anymore. You're bought. Enjoy your money though.
And he would talk about it as a merger, and he said, a lot of words like they're partners, we're partners.
Yeah, you're not partners.
And yeah, it's really he's an employee of HYBE.
Right.
But, they want to let him say whatever he wants to say.
But at the
That's
same
fine.
time, yeah, I don't think it's he's speaking out of turn.
Yeah.
I do believe that that's how HYBE wants him to characterize it.
Yeah. Bang PD is fine with him saying
Yeah.
that.
I don't think he's just like being a prick or entitled or speaking out of turn or anything like that. I think that, yeah, this is how HYBE wants him to speak of it.
They want him to feel good about the situation, and however he wants to characterize it, they're fine with it. Like,
I'm not sure that they're that sensitive about his feelings about it. I think that they want Americans to feel. You know what I can compare this to, and maybe this is not an apt comparison, but in the 80s, a lot of you were not alive in the 80s, but imagine back in the 80s, okay? Japan was an ascending economy, and people are afraid, like, oh, is Japan going to take over? And
Yeah.
whenever Japanese companies bought into American companies or just bought them outright, they would have to. It was a delicate PR situation where they wouldn't want to act like, we're just coming in and buying up American companies, because that's, I don't know, it's bad PR or something. So they would want to couch the context of that a little bit differently. They want to call it a partnership or something, even though it's not a partnership. The Japanese company bought the American company,
yeah.
right? You are all employees of a Japanese company now. But they wouldn't talk about it that way because it didn't look good, Americans might not look at that kindly for whatever reason. I don't see why they should care. I mean, like, companies buy companies. But I think it's similar to that.
Right. They want to avoid that situation.
Right. Where they don't want it to look like, these foreigners are coming in and buying everything.
Yeah.
They want to make it look like, it's a happy partnership. It's not a partnership. One company bought the other company. The end.
Like the 80s, there was this Japan scare, basically. Everybody was like, oh my God, Japan is totally buying up American companies and they're taking over. And then it was like not seen as a positive thing. And it was like, oh, they're so rigid and they're going to make us change and this and that. And it was like...
Right. If you want to understand the entire psychology of this, watch this cool movie called Gung Ho. Okay? I'm going to mention this.
I thought you were going to say Rising Sun.
Rising Sun? Oh, Rising Sun's also a good example. But Gung Ho and Rising Sun.
Yeah.
Gung Ho was this really cool 80s film starring Michael Keaton. He was Batman. He was the best Batman, by the way. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. It's about this sort of, not anti-Japanese, because the message of the movie is actually quite positive. It's like, hey, we can cooperate and we can work together.
Yeah.
So it's
about
actually,
cultural differences.
it's actually a good movie. It's like about bridging cultural differences, but it touches on a lot of these. Oh man, Japan is buying up a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how we feel about that. And Rising Sun is I guess it's a less positive movie because it really is about how the Japanese are kind of shady.
That makes Japan look bad.
And I was like, wow, we really need Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes to defend us against these shady ass Japanese people.
But yeah, I do think those two movies capture that feeling
it's like,
of
wow, they're buying everything.
Oh my God, these Asian foreigners, they're
and
totally taking over.
And we need a black guy and a Scottish guy to defend us for some weird reason.
Yeah, that's true. Was he supposed to be an American but with that same accent?
He was an American, but he knew Japanese and he was friends with all the Japanese. It's like, but you're American, but you also have a Scottish accent, so explain this. No one can explain it. It has to do with Hollywood casting. They wanted Sean Connery in the film, and that's it. It didn't even matter. I'm sure he was not Scottish in the book.
But Sean Connery in Rising Sun is like stereotypical Sean Connery.
Yeah, he didn't bother. It was a phone-in performance, too. He didn't change anything about himself. Anyway, watch those two movies. You'll understand sort of this I wouldn't call it xenophobia. It's just kind of a fear of foreign companies buying up your companies.
Yeah, I think
You
Bang
know?
PD knows like they need to make it look more friendly. They don't want to
Right.
look like they're stealing
Right.
away, Ariana Grande. And
It's like
Justin
Ariana
Bieber.
Grande works for a Korean company now?
Like, oh my god.
Oh my god, Justin Bieber works for a Korean company? Are they going to make him sing in Korean? Like, no, they're not going to do. They just want to allay those fears. And you know what? I'm not even saying that the vast majority of Americans would have that fear. It seems like kind of stupid to even have. But you could see how he might be sensitive to that. He might think, "Oh, I hope Americans don't think I'm buying up their companies or something." He just wants to play it safe.
Yeah, and at the same time, right now, it's like we're hearing about there's, Chinese people are buying up land everywhere.
Oh no, that's true though. They are driving up your real estate prices. And they're not even living in those houses. Those houses are sometimes empty, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like, rich Chinese people, they just need a place to park their money. American real estate is one of those places to park their money.
It's a very steady place.
And you should absolutely be against that.
So he doesn't want to be lumped in with like that kind of thing.
It shows that he's a smart guy. Bang Beauty is a smart guy because he knows that people might look at it a certain way.
Yeah, you never know how it could be
Yeah.
written in press. Like, oh my God, Bang PD,
Yeah.
this mysterious
Right.
South Korean guy. He's like buying all this stuff. It's like, do we want
Right.
that to happen?
So I don't want people to think that, oh, Scooter Braun is just like some dumb, brash American who's just like speaking out of turn. Like,
Right.
no.
Right.
I can almost guarantee you that he had a conversation with Bang PD, who's now his boss, and he said, "Hey, yeah, you talk about this as more like a partnership." And
Yeah.
I'm sure that has been greenlit. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm almost sure.
Yeah, this article was a lot of, I want to work on my relationships. We want it to be East meets West. We want
Right,
everybody
right.
to get along. And he had like lots of nice things to say about BTS. He said, they're humble, they're nice, they ask great questions, they're gracious, and I could tell why they're the biggest group in the world. It's like, oh, of course he's going to say good things about BTS. Like, that's going to help
Of course.
him.
Right.
I mean, even if they were like totally mean to him when they met him, there's no way he would say that.
And of course, they were not totally mean to him or
No,
anything.
no,
Why
they
would they be mean to Scooter Braun?
This article also had, a bunch of quotes from the artists that he manages. And it's like they really wanted to include, the artists all think Scooter Braun is a great guy. And then that he's really managing their careers well. And then he like relates to them on a personal level too. So I do think this was part of like a PR thing.
I don't even think it's all BS or anything. I mean, a lot of his artists are super successful. And so it's hard to say that he doesn't manage them well.
Yeah, and they wouldn't stay with him if he was like a terrible manager.
Well, why are you so successful if he's a terrible manager? I don't think he is. Now, I don't agree with a person naming themselves Scooter, but whatever. That's not his real name, obviously.
Right.
What is his real name?
Scott.
Eric? Scott? Oh gosh, I knew it was Scott. I'm Scooter. Jesus Christ. I mean, how much money do you have? Can you just go by your real name now?
Maybe there's like too many Scotts out there, and he's like, that's...
Scott Braun. That's still a fine name. I don't understand. There's nothing wrong with that name. Yes, well, watch those 2 movies.
Yeah, you'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Recently, there was a feud on Twitter between K-pop fans as some toxic individuals claiming to be Blackpink fans were saying negative and offensive things about BTS. So this began when Twitter users gathered on Twitter Spaces on June 22nd. And if you've ever used Twitter Spaces, it's basically where you can do audio conversations between a number of people.
Other Twitter people?
Yeah. It's kind of like
Okay.
Clubhouse, but on Twitter. It was like Twitter's version of that.
Did it come after Clubhouse? Are they
Yeah,
copying?
It was after. It was a copycat
Why? Why
thing.
would you even want to? I don't want to talk to anybody on Twitter or Clubhouse.
I mean, I don't either, but I guess some people like communicating in audio.
Who? What kind of I mean, seriously, when your friends call you on the phone, what do you generally do? You hang up and then you text them and say, why don't you text me?
Like, why don't you use the chat or group chat or whatever?
I mean, literally, there's only one person I'll talk to on the phone these days, which is my mother. And that's because she doesn't text, which I hate. Every single other person, I'll ask them, why didn't you text me? What year do you think this is? Do you think it's 2003? I would just go in on them. And I won't stop. I won't even relent. I'll press it. I'll embarrass them. I'll just say, what year do you think it is? Who's the president? I'm going to guess you're going to say Bill Clinton because you called me instead of texted me.
Well, this is why I never understood why people like FaceTime. Because that's...
Yeah, I don't get
you're
that either.
You're talking to people.
I don't get that either. I don't get Clubhouse unless you just love the sound of your own voice. I don't love the sound of my own voice. I don't listen to this podcast because I don't like the sound of my own voice.
I don't like my voice either.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of my voice.
So this situation occurred on Twitter Spaces, and it was like a gathering of Blackpink fans. Apparently, they all had their own Twitter Spaces meeting, and they started talking about other groups. They started saying some very offensive things about BTS. Among those were making references to Jimin being gay, or Jimin is a woman, or calling him the F word that means something homophobic.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also, I don't know if it was related to this chat, but I saw memes referencing V's grandma, and it was like showing a skeleton. And if you're ARMY, you know that V's grandma passed away a few years ago, and he was upset about it. And there's like, footage on different documentaries or whatever that showed him. So that's kind of a low blow to talk about someone's deceased grandma. And there's also someone said RM sexually assaulted Lisa from Blackpink. Obviously that never happened, but
really, that's really out there. Based on what?
Someone was just said that, and you really can't be saying stuff like that because it starts rumors. So yeah, a bunch of stuff like that was being talked about in this Twitter Spaces, and then after that, BTS fans, they had recorded this. I guess some people were in that room and they recorded it, and then they started a hashtag Blackpink disband. So yeah, there was kind of a little thing going on Twitter because of this, what's happening in this Twitter Spaces of being said about ARMY. And so, of course they're going to take that and be really upset about it and talk about these blinks. And
okay, well, it was just like a few of them though, right?
Yeah, as far as I could see, it was like one Twitter Spaces room, and it was only a few people that were...
It's just like 10 people or so. That's all, right? I will still talk about it, but it's just, keep in mind, it's just 10 people.
And ARMY heard about it, and then they started releasing that video and exposing these people, and it was like, this is terrible. Like, I don't agree with the hashtag of Blackpink disband, but, it didn't have anything to do with Blackpink, but... I guess they wanted to call attention to it. Maybe that's the easiest way to do it, is that's your hashtag. But I thought it was crazy because, like, the people in the Twitter Spaces, they sounded American and they were speaking English. And so it's like they were Americans. I don't know. So you have to realize that Twitter has some of, like, the worst people on there. They will say, like, the most insulting things. And you can't necessarily, like, listen to all of this stuff. It's like people are saying things just to be shocking, just to like offend people, and you have to kind of just block people like that if you ever come across them. It's just easier that way. So, but I mean, this type of thing happens. It's gonna happen.
Fan wars are just so
like that's how it starts, though.
It's not that these people are not that interesting to me because, like I always say, you can find a few people online that say anything. That's not necessarily indicative of anything else. But I think it's more interesting to talk about fan wars. Why are fans warring with each other?
Yeah. That's
a bigger issue, isn't it? 'Cause that's the thing that's causing these people to say negative things about another group. These people like Blackpink. What does it have to do with any other group? I don't. Why do you feel the need?
Right. They want to bring down BTS.
Yeah, that's very odd to me. Now, listen, I've been a sports fan, so I've said many negative things about like opposing teams and things like that, and opposing teams' fans. I'm not proud of it, but I freely admit it. I've said all these things about, right? This is a common thing. But at least in the sports world, there's winners and losers, right? It's a zero-sum game. My team can only win if your team wins less or outright loses, right? There's no such thing as both of our teams winning. That does not exist based on the rules of the sports league. Both of our teams can't win. So you're my enemy and I'm against you. And anytime you're happy and your team wins, that must by definition detract from me. But that's not the way it is in K-pop. There's no reason why BTS and Blackpink can't both be wildly successful, which apparently, obviously they are.
That's true.
Right? There's no reason for you to feel the need to cut down some other fandom or group. I don't understand that, but at the same time, I sort of do understand that because I can see that psychology, right? It's us and it's them. So that does breed some crazy behavior.
Yeah. You're going to see some animosity, maybe some jealousy. It's like, I don't know. People don't like that BTS is too popular and, being number one on Billboard or whatever. I'm sure Blinks think that Blackpink should be getting all these achievements and attention too.
But why are they so upset? I mean, because Blackpink is massively successful too. There's no reason to. Why?
Right. They're successful in their own way.
Yeah, there's really no reason to. But don't pay it much heed. Don't get involved in it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, these things are silly and just kind of ignore it. I mean, I saw it just for entertainment value, but that's basically it. It's just kind of a silly fandom situation. Aespa's Next Level dance practice video is under fire for its alleged sexualization of office workers. To thank fans for 100 million views for their Next Level music video, Aespa dropped the company version of their choreography practice. On June 24th, the practice video had become a hot topic on online community sites under the title, "Is Aespa's Next Level company version dance practice sex commercialization?" They said that dancing with exposed occupational attire, such as with nurses and soldiers, is professional sex commercialization. In their office looks, they dance in crop top shirts, but office workers don't usually dress like this. So I guess people were offended because of this dance practice video where Aespa was wearing like office clothing, but it was like cropped shirts and stuff and bare midriff showing.
Yeah, I saw it.
It was like, okay, sexier office workers.
Right. I saw it.
But I mean, I don't think this is some serious situation. I feel like people need to calm down. It's just, it's just a fun video.
Right. We often don't get offended by things, but this is really inoffensive. First of all, myself being an office worker, I welcome any time that people try to make office workers sexier, because that seems like a very difficult task, right? Office workers are generally not that sexy. They are sedentary. You know what that means, right? If they're sedentary, I welcome it. It's fine. Want to make office workers sexier? What's so bad about that, right? And here's the other thing. I like that they dress up for the office. Obviously, that's not really what office workers wear, but it's kind of like a representation of, suits,
yeah, they had
dress
suits
shoes
on,
or whatever.
heels.
Around here, hey, in this country, the United States, that's where I'm from, offices are becoming more and more dressed down all the time.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with. That's a movement that I don't agree with. So I like when, Asian countries show us an office wear that's, a little bit more formal. I appreciate that.
It's gotten way too casual.
It's very, very casual. You can get away with wearing anything at the office these days, I feel like. Okay. I like working from home or whatever. But when I do go in an office, I appreciate wearing stuff that looks a little bit better and seeing people who are dressed a little bit better.
Yeah. People that have taken care into their appearance.
Yes, I appreciate that. And I don't know. I feel like Aespa, they're not going into an office, obviously, but at least they're perpetuating this image of office wear as a thing.
Yeah, this is like a nicer image of what it looks like to work in an office.
Which
people should welcome that.
Which I 100% approve of.
And let's not forget they're idols. So, of course, they're going to do a dance practice, and it's going to look better than what actual office workers look like.
Right, and of course it's going to be a little sexier
they're
or whatever.
attractive girls. It's like they're going to, adjust the uniform to what they think it would be better.
Right.
So
exactly.
I mean, I can't believe anybody was actually offended by this, but you never know, because the similar situation happened with Blackpink and Jennie wearing the nurse's outfit that people thought was sexualizing nurses. And it was like, it wasn't even a revealing outfit or anything. It was just, it was a very modest nurse dress.
Right.
But I mean, that was enough for them, YG, to edit the video. So people complain about stuff, and then sometimes these idol groups have to change it. And as far as I know, SM didn't do anything about this situation. They didn't take down the video or anything. So no,
I mean, it's just a practice video anyway. But I appreciate I'm for it. I wish people looked like that when I went to the office.
Right. If only they
But they
looked like
don't.
that.
Number one, they don't dress up. Number two, they don't dress up sexy. Number three, they don't look like K-pop idols. Unfortunately, on all those counts. But yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see anything bad about it.
I was glad to see that most of the comments, people said, this criticism is ridiculous. Like, they didn't agree with it. So I'm glad most people were being reasonable. They're like, how is that a criticism? Like, no one's sexualizing anything. It's like, this is how Aespa dressed for this dance practice video.
Right.
And I almost think there might be a double standard when it comes to like girl groups and boy groups, because it's always girl groups that are criticized for sexualizing something. Like when they have some kind of job that they're dressed as in their video. Like I said, the Blackpink video and this video, but you never hear boy groups criticized for that, even though they do the same thing. Like no one says those guys are sexualizing this job, you know? Because the example I could think of was BTS's Dope video from 2015.
Right.
And that's the one where it showed all the members in like different job outfits. Like Jin was a doctor, Jungkook was a policeman, Jimin was an office worker, etc. And it's like, okay, what office worker looks like Jimin? It's like, that's the same thing. But no one ever criticized that video. No one said, oh, they're sexualizing office workers and doctors and stuff. It's like...
Right.
And I don't know if it's because, okay, that was back in 2015, so maybe people weren't being all woke back then, or if it's like people don't criticize boy groups, whereas they do with girl groups.
There could be something of a double standard, but only because the outfits are changed a little bit more, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's how you make an outfit, sexy K-pop outfit.
Yeah, and it's like the stylist, when you're putting together an K-pop idol video, it's not going to be exactly what someone in the real world would wear as an office worker or whatever. It's like they're going to make it look more attractive on the idol. They're going to cut it closer or whatever, make it look better. So, I mean, I think most people understand this. So it just seems like there might be kind of a double standard between girl groups and boy groups as far as like, oh, you're sexualizing this. People only care if like girl groups are sexualizing something.
Right.
So, and then I heard that, like I wasn't ARMY back then, but I guess during the time of this Dope video, they also did a fan meeting, and like every single member of BTS was wearing a police uniform. It's like, oh, they're sexualizing the police by wearing that uniform. But yeah, this is one of the things we deal with. Like in 2021, it's like you're sexualizing this and that, and you're making this too attractive. It's like, is that a bad thing?
Yeah, it's a bad thing now. Yeah.
That people think office workers are sexy.
Right.
Chinese experts are claiming that there's an anti-China online alliance called the Milk Tea Alliance, centered on teenagers in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Thailand, which is exploiting the Korean wave to interfere in domestic affairs. So there's these two researchers, Sun Jae-san and Zhao Han Yu, who said that this alliance is targeting Korean companies and are exploiting the Korean wave in order to move against China. And by doing that, they're kind of spreading democratic solidarity among these countries, and they're kind of using K-pop and you know, anything else that's popular like K-dramas or whatever in order to spread democracy and speak against one China and things like that. I almost think they're being kind of paranoid here, but it's like, what are you guys worried about? It's like, if you're in China, I mean, I guess that's what you need to worry about because you can't censor everything, but it's like, these are people in other countries. If they have democracy, of course they're going to say, hey, democracy is great, and then tell other people, you know? They're going to, like, people who experience freedom, they talk about how nice that is, you know? I don't think it's this whole conspiracy. It's like, we're trying to take down China. It's like just people saying, hey, you know what? Free speech is pretty good, and maybe you should try to have it, you know?
I don't even understand first of all, I love the name Milk Tea. What the hell? That's a good name.
I wish that was an alliance.
Yeah, but I don't get, okay.
This is how China is, though. They're the ones trying to spread pro-China stuff, by forcing anyone who's Chinese, you can't say anything bad about China. Like, you're a Chinese celebrity or Chinese idol and you work in K-pop. Like, you can't say anything against China. And then it's like, you guys are controlling that. And at the same time, you think the other side is doing the same thing. It's like, no, they're not. It's like, people are just saying whatever they want. They're just saying, like, hey, free speech is great. Being able to say whatever you want is great.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's organic on the other side, but of course they're going to think there's some kind of conspiracy going on that's anti-China. It's like, no one's anti-China, really. It's like, they just want freedom.
That's not fair. I do think these groups are anti-China. They are. But, you know, I obviously agree with their opinion. But China doesn't agree with those opinions, obviously. But I don't understand why they're so worried about it, though. That's not clear to me.
Well,
How are people using the K-pop?
I just think these fan clubs are forming because people like the music, and then they're forming these groups, and I don't think it has anything to do with, like, let's take down China.
Oh.
But they think that people are using those groups in order to spread these, like, democratic ideas.
I see. Well, they are, probably. And China doesn't like that because they're not a democracy, and they don't want you to be free, and they don't want you to think for yourself. You know? And that's that. Well, everybody knows my opinion on China.
Yeah. I just think it's kind of funny that they gave the Milk Tea Alliance this name, and it's like, oh, that sounds like fun to join the Milk Tea Alliance. It sounds like a good place to go. It's
Milk Tea Alliance.
Get some boba,
right.
Listen to some K-pop. It's like, this sounds good. But yeah, I guess this is China being really worried about everybody else and trying to, like, shut down freedom in other places. So of course they're gonna try to make people look bad. But, you know, that's fine. People are going to listen to K-pop regardless, and the popularity will spread, and there's really nothing China can do about that.
No, there's stuff they can do about that. We'll see what happens, but
yeah,
they will try.
Well, yeah, we saw with Kim Jong-un, he's already worried about it in North Korea. He's like, everybody's banned from listening to K-pop. Like, who knows what China might do if they think that's necessary. Thank you to our guest, Morgan. You can find BTS Happy Hour on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other podcast platforms. New episodes weekly. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. Follow BTS Happy Hour on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. You can also go to the website at btshappyhour.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for additional content. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.